The sky on the planet Zeta Prime always burned blue, but that night, the sky was ablaze with crimson. Queen Siraxa, Vel Tyran gazed at the plasma torches burning high in the throne room's ceiling. The metal walls were covered with the scars of past battles, each one a memory of a betrayal, a victory. A single man stood before the throne, human, in his filthy armor, cracked helmet, an ancient earth rifle on his back. His name, Cain Roth. His rank was gone. Even his uniform was non-standard, but he was still a soldier. Siraxa's voice echoed through the throne room, cold, commanding. Your name is Cain Roth. Your left arm is synthetic. Your eyes bear the scars of the old battle. Why? Cain stood tall. Because I am a survivor. The palace guards were uneasy. A human couldn't respond to a queen in that tone. But Siraxa raised her hand. Silence. You are my bodyguard now, she said. How can someone who disobeys orders protect me? Cain narrowed his eyes. I owe you not orders, but life. Siraxa's eyes softened briefly. Just a moment. The alarm sounded. Red lights streamed from the ceilings. A metallic sound filled the palace. Assassination threat detected. Units, stand away. Siraxa stood. Her robes fluttered. Cain was already in motion. Queen, to the rear exit. Now, Siraxa wasn't surprised by his sharpness. She just nodded. The walls trembled as she ran through the corridors. The explosions were distant, but they were getting closer. A guard was silently taken down by a shadow waiting in the corner. Cain saw it out of the corner of his eye. He immediately raised his rifle. A shot silence. The shadow collapsed. Siraxa turned. How did you know? Cain answered, his gaze fixed on the body. I too emerged from those shadows. I know them. When they reached the bunker door, they found someone inside. Cain's face contorted. A woman, partly robotic. A familiar gleam in her eyes. You. Cain stepped back. Velen. The woman smiled. Hello, Cain. I finally found you again. Siraxa's eyes widened. Do you know her? Cain didn't answer. Velen spoke. You left me while the human world burned. But I won't forget. I pursue the queen because you want to protect her. There was a silence. Cain stepped in front of Siraxa. No matter what you do to me, you cannot surpass her. Velen bowed his head. I was already dead the day you left me, Cain. The corridor was narrow, the lights flickering. Footsteps echoed off the metal walls, approaching like death. Cain stepped in front of Siraxa. His finger was on the trigger, his eyes fixed on Velen. Time stood still for a moment. Velen bent down. A cable dangled from his shoulder. His eyes glowed in the darkness. This once human being was no longer the person he knew, but the memories clung like blood. 10 years ago, you left me in the ashes, Velen said. His voice was cracked, but unmistakable. I knew you wouldn't come back, but I also knew you would come back for him. Cain's voice was hoarse. Velen, don't you dare. Don't say that word. You killed me. Now you will do the same for him. He raised his weapon. He fixed the sight on Siraxa's forehead. Did not move. There was no fear in her gaze. Only a question. Who are you? He asked coldly. Velen smiled. A gleam flowed from his eyes. I am the last red in his heart. While you kings and queens touched thrones, we humans lost everything. I have come to offer you my final touch. Cain lunged, pulled the trigger. Light exploded. Velen jumped back. Sparks flew as the bullet hit the wall. In a moment of chaos, Siraxa collapsed to the ground. Cain leaped onto her. Then the corridor was plunged into darkness. The system had failed. Only the emergency lights remained. Red, pulsing. Cain pulled Siraxa's arm. We need to get out of here. This structure is about to fall. Siraxa held her breath. Was that woman your past? Cain turned his head. My past is everywhere now. They started running. The ground cracked beneath their feet. Smoke seeped from the ceilings. Somewhere the system was failing. Somewhere else a memory was reviving. Velen didn't follow them, at least not right away, but his voice still echoed. Thrones rust, but the heart rots. When they had moved away from the sanctuary, they reached the main palace block. All the guards were either dead or out of communication. This place belonged only to the enemy now. Saraxa stopped. The metal plate on her shoulder was cracked. Kane looked at her. "You're wounded. It doesn't matter. We need to talk. Not now. Right now." Kane slowly lowered his rifle. He turned to Saraxa in silence. "Why did you choose me?" Saraxa asked. "Of thousands of guards. Why a human? Why you?" Kane bowed his head. Smoke rose from the collapsing corner of the ceiling. "Because you are alone, like me," he said. Saraxa narrowed her eyes. "I thought you didn't recognize me." "I didn't, but I saw something. In your eyes." "What did you see?" Kane took a step closer. He lowered his voice. "A trace of something I don't have, but something lost." There was a crack. A column of light fell from above their heads. The ceiling cracked. Kane pushed Saraxa away and threw himself onto her. Dust, sparks, hot metal. Saraxa groaned hoarsely. Kane sat up and lifted her, but his knees were shaking. His left arm began to spark. Synthetic circuits were burning. "Your arm. It's like a spare part anyway. If it's no good, we'll tear it off." "No," Saraxa said. "Tell me about your past." Kane looked away. "Velen was with me. When the world burned, I lost him. Or so I thought. So he survived. Shattered, rebuilt. Now he's someone else." "Is there still a human inside him?" Kane shook his head. "Yes, but his heart is buried beneath the metal." Just as the two were about to reach the energy core, all the palace lights suddenly went out. Then, a shaft of blue light opened. A figure slowly appeared before them. Velen had transformed into something else entirely. His body was entangled in glowing wires. His face was still familiar, but his eyes were completely mechanical. "Nice escape," he said. But this was the end. Kane took a step forward. "You rage at him, not at me. No, at you, because you've forgotten my heart, and this throne is just an excuse." Velen raised his arm. Plasma blades emerged from his palms, flashing with a feverish hum. "Let Saraxa go. You have no problem with her. I want to see what protecting her has made you. Choose again. The throne or the heart?" Kane raised his rifle. "This time, I'll take both. Fire." A blast. Velen quickly dodged, slashing at Kane's arm with his plasma blade. The synthetic arm was instantly disabled. Kane backed away. Saraxa tried to intervene, but Kane cried out, "No, stop. You can't handle her alone." Kane gritted his teeth. "But if anyone else gets hurt, we'll lose again." Velen took a step forward. "When will the people learn? If you're still human, you'll know," Kane said. Velen paused for a moment. The light in his hands faded. His gaze softened, but then it flared again. Too late. At that moment, Saraxa lunged forward. The arc of energy from her palm sent Velen hurtling. A scream rose from the metal as he hit the wall. Velen collapsed to the ground. The wires sparked. His eyes flashed. His left hand flew to his chest. Kane slowly approached. He knelt down. He placed his hand on Velen's head. "I'm sorry," he said. Velen opened his eyes one last time. His voice was a whisper. "If only your heart still beat for me. ... Last spark, last breath, last look." Velen fell silent. The palace's voice returned. The lights came on. The threat code was cancelled. Saraxa came to Kane's side. They stared at Velen in silence. Finally, Saraxa spoke. "This was your past." Kane stared at the floor. "And its darkness remains within me." Saraxa placed a hand on Kane's uninjured arm. "We both have our past now, but now we can have our future." Together, Kane turned to her. His eyes were filled with tears, but his face was calm. I will not fight to protect the galaxy, but simply to avoid losing another heart. And in that moment, a war was over before it even began. But behind every peace, another shadow lurked. Zeta Prime's sky was slowly being repaired. The palace lay in ruins, the towers toppled, but the queen still stood. And as long as she stood, the galaxy would not be silent. Kane sat in the ruins of the tower, waiting for his armor to be repaired. His synthetic arm had been removed, replaced by a temporary mechanical skeleton. It wasn't strong, but it would do the job. Saraxa came to him, quietly. Nothing could be heard except the sound of him stepping on the metal stones. "You loved that woman," he said. Kane didn't look up. "She was someone I loved, but she was gone. Only a shell remained, and that shell nearly killed me." Kane looked at her face. "It's my fault." "No," Saraxa said. "This was a war of the future, not the past." Kane stood. He closed the chest plate on his armor. "Do we have a new target?" Saraxa looked up at the sky. Still misty. Velen wasn't alone. His wire was connected to another source. This wasn't a person. This was a network, a mind. Kane frowned. Artificial intelligence. No, an organic collective consciousness. And its name is Nahajun. Kane glanced over the name. It had a cold, ancient, terrible ring to it. Is he connected to me, too? No, he is connected to me. Saraxa stepped slowly. She reached inside her armor. She pulled out a small metal sphere. Its surface seemed alive. It pulsed. "What is this?" "My heart," Saraxa said. Kane flinched. "Literally, no, but symbolically, yes. It represents my queenly line. All my dynasty codes are stored here. And this sphere is what Nahajun was truly seeking." Kane narrowed his eyes. "So Velen didn't mean to kill you?" "No. He wanted to transform me with this orb." At that moment, an explosion rang through the air. A blue tear opened in the sky. Lights danced. A voice echoed. "You've lost your way. We're coming." Kane grabbed his weapon. "What was that?" Saraxa's voice was muffled. "Nahajun found us." One of the palace's towers, which was being repaired, suddenly burst into flames. The wave of energy toppled everything. As they crashed to the ground, a massive ship appeared in the sky. It became clear that this wasn't a ship. This was a living thing. It had no skin, no shell, just a pulsing mass like a brain, and limbs whirling around it. It sucked in the stars like the veins of a heart. Kane drew back. "How do we fight this?" Saraxa didn't blink. "We won't fight it. We will absorb it." "What do you mean?" "The sphere. If it breaks the connection, it will paralyze him. But to do that, we need to penetrate his veins. So, we need to get inside." "Yes, that's madness." "Not madness," Saraxa said. "Faith." Kane shook his head. "I trust good marksmanship more than faith." The ship poured the creature slowly descended into the atmosphere. As the city prepared for escape, Saraxa and Kane set out on a mission to penetrate the creature. They set out in a small assault vehicle. The craft was coated with a stealth layer that refracted light waves. This would render them invisible for a few minutes, but only a few. "Are you ready?" Saraxa asked. Kane glanced at his weapon one last time. "I'm not, but I will." "This isn't bravery. This is honesty." "No, this is realism, born of fear." The craft slid through the creature's vein-like opening. It was silent, but this silence was deathly silence. Kane scanned. Among the organic tissues were glowing nerve fibers. Each one vibrated, emitting light. The sphere shifted in Saraxa's palm. "Here," he said. "The nexus is somewhere here." Kane moved forward, walking slowly, toward the center of the hull. For a moment, everything seemed quiet. Then a voice echoed. It sounded like a human voice, but at the same time, like the voice of a child, a woman, an elder. Saraxa, Cain, your heart is open to us. Saraxa gripped the orb tightly. Close, don't. We've summoned you before, but you always ran away. This time, don't be afraid. Cain pulled the trigger. This voice, it's ingrained in my brain, because we're here, within you, within everyone. Suddenly, the creature's walls shifted, veins opened. Figures emerged from them. Creatures that resembled silhouettes, but weren't defined. Shadows born of thought. Velen's form appeared. No, Cain said. This is impossible, Saraxa whispered. These aren't real. They're just projections of the mind. The figure of Velen spoke. But you still love me. Cain squeezed his eyes shut. No. Velen walked away. He sits only on a throne, but you and I walk through fire. Cain pulled the trigger. The figure disintegrated. The vein closed back. Saraxa pressed the orb against the vein wall. Now, a flash of light erupted. The entire internal structure shook. The creature, or mind, or ship, convulsed in pain. Saraxa fell to the ground. Cain embraced her. Saraxa, her eyes were open, but her consciousness was gone. The orb had established the connection, and her mind was now at the center of HLU on. Cain looked around. The shadows had vanished, but something was still there, like a tiny heartbeat, like a whisper. And you, Cain? Where does your heart beat? Cain shouted. I still have humanity. The orb glowed. Saraxa opened her eyes. In a flash of light, the creature's internal tissue began to disintegrate. All systems began to fail. The connection was broken. The ship, or the thing, squirmed upward through the sky. Then it exploded like a star. Silence daughters later. Cain and Saraxa returned to the gray towers of Zeta Prime, weary but standing. Are you hurt? Saraxa asked. Only my soul. Good. We have time for it to heal. Cain looked down. The human heart is not as strong as I thought. No, said, but in the right hands, it can heal even the galaxy. And the sky turned blue for the first time. The palace had been repaired, but the walls still spoke. Every crack, every scorch mark whispered something, especially at night. A silence fell before the palace council as Queen Saraxa Veltyran was restored to her throne. For the first time, the High Council questioned the closeness of a human to the Queen. One of the council members, a senior, bony-faced figure, stood. My honored Queen, we swore fealty to you here, but that man, that human, did not swear an oath to you. Why do you still keep him in your protection? Saraxa's voice was like a sharp knife. Because he is loyal, even without that oath. Another interjected. But we cannot protect you if he hovers around you like a shadow. Cain was waiting just outside the door at that moment. He heard every word. His fists were clenched, but he did not enter. This was not his fight yet. The council's heads bowed. Then let's be clear. Your bodyguard, Cain Roth, isn't just a soldier. He's also Velen Sarn's former vassal. He's the assassin's companion. Saraxa paused for a moment. Her gaze darkened. Where did you get this information? Through mental links. Neashun's relic codes are still being analyzed. There's a piece of his mind in those codes. Saraxa stood. This isn't his betrayal. It's his survival. What if this is our end? Night Cain was on patrol in the outer courtyard of the palace, but his mind was preoccupied. In every corridor, in every silence, the same whisper echoed in his ear. Who do you belong to? Footsteps were heard. Saraxa was coming. This time, she was alone. She wore no armor, just a gray robe. Her face was tired. Cain bowed. My queen, there's no need for such formality. No one's watching us anyway. Cain fell silent. Saraxa took a few more steps. Moonlight fell between them. The wind gently blew his robes. Defending you today was difficult, he said. Proving I believe in you was harder than I anticipated. Cain bowed his head. Perhaps I have no place in this palace, not even in this galaxy. Perhaps not even there. Saraxa approached, slowly. Her face was directly opposite his. You saved my life, but what did I give you? Cain averted his eyes. You gave me trust. Is that enough? No, he said, but I don't ask for more. Saraxa placed her hand on his chest. She heard a pulse from beneath the armor, the sound of a real heart, just like the one she had lost. This voice gives me confidence, Saraxa said. This is the voice of your heart. It feels like it belongs to me. At that moment, the wind stopped. The moon disappeared, and the palace went dark. The alarm didn't sound, for this time, the danger was within. The doors to the throne room burst open. The palace guards collapsed. All had been shot from within. 3 of the council members walked in, wearing military armor. They held royal seals. The oldest spoke. The throne is now in weak hands. The galaxy needs strong blood. Saraxa rose from her throne. This is rebellion. No, this is cleansing. At that moment, Cain burst in. He held a plasma rifle. His armor was incomplete, but his anger was absolute. Stand back, he said. You have no authority here, one of the rebels said. My heart is here, and it beats for this throne. When the first shot rang out, time slowed. Lights flashed, windows shattered. Saraxa fell to the ground. Cain took out 2 of them with 2 bullets. The third fled. The throne room fell silent. The smell of blood filled the air. Saraxa rose from the floor. You saved you again. No, Cain said this time. I chose you. The rebellion was crushed, but it had left a wound. This time, the palace walls were stained not with external blood, but with internal blood. Saraxa returned to her throne. She did not sit. She simply stared. Cain stood behind her. They did not speak. The throne was heavy. The heart was even heavier. But neither of them was alone anymore. And this was more precious than any battle. This was the edge of the galaxy, a point not even marked on maps. Even the void seemed weary here, but there was a signal, small, steady, cold. The remnant of En-Hashun had taken form on this planet, not a structure, not a body, but a thought, and thoughts are like seeds. They sprout again in the right mind. Saraxa knew it. Cain felt it now too. When the ship landed on that ashen planet, its surface covered with cracks. The sky seemed to breathe. A darkness awoke. Saraxa silently put on her armor. Cain, however, had abandoned it. She wore only black cloth, her old rifle on her back. Are you ready? Saraxa asked. Cain smiled. I will never be ready again, but I will go. The 2 began to walk side by side. The surface cracked beneath their feet. With each step, En-Hashun's voice echoed from the depths. Do you still believe in the heart? Saraxa retorted. You only know fear. The heart does not fear. The heart breaks, always. When they reached the central region, they saw a structure like a giant mind wheel spinning deep within the planet. The kind perceived by the mind, not the eye. The ground trembled. The sphere began to pulse again in Saraxa's hand. We can disable it when we get closer, she said. Cain shook his head. It won't be that easy. They won't let you in. Not me, Saraxa said. But they will let you in. Cain paused. No. Your mind has touched them before. You can pass. Only you. Cain fell silent. His lip pulled back. His eyes turned to the sky. There was nothing there, but once there had been a home, a world. Memories turned to ash. And now, one last time, it was about to make sense. So this is my last walk. Saraxa didn't look away. This is your choice. Cain approached. He took Saraxa's hands. For the first time, her hands were warm inside the cold armor. She was alive. She was real. Does your heart beat for me? Cain asked. Siraxa whispered. It can't beat anywhere else now. Cain nodded. Then I will go with this heart. And he walked, alone, slowly, into the depths. The mind wheel engulfed her. Layers of consciousness opened one by one. Velen's silhouette appeared once more, but this time, like a memory, just an echo. Cain did not stop. He placed Sirax's heart sphere in the central core, and in that moment, everything fell silent. The network across the galaxy began to collapse. The dark connection was severed, and Ajin screamed, but no one heard, for she was alone now. On the surface, Siraxa collapsed to the ground. The sky had darkened, but inside, she was filled with light. She thought of only one thing: Cain. Will Cain return? Minutes passed, hours, silence. Finally, a voice was heard, but not a footstep. A light appeared in the sky, among the stars. A signal, an old military frequency. Just one sentence: the heart has been sent. The throne is yours. Siraxa held back a tear and lifted her head to the sky. That night, for the first time, she felt not queenly, but human. Months later, the throne was rebuilt, but this time, not of iron. From pieces of Cain's old armor, the circuitry of his synthetic arm, and the trigger piece of the rifle he carried, Siraxa stood before the throne. She was alone, but this loneliness was not in vain. She began to speak. The palace does not mourn, but I will, for a man has made something more powerful than a throne. He has forgotten himself to save a heart. She bowed before the throne. Farewell, Cainroth. You gave me the throne, I gave you my heart, and we both won. Cain was gone, but every star bore his mark. Every silence held his voice. The Iron Throne might rust, but that heart would beat forever.